Hello there, and as usual, I'm Aaron from Last Stand Gamers, and welcome. So it's Thursday, and we all know what Thursday means. We've got an exciting update from the Space Engineers developers, and you're probably wondering what you'll be getting your hands on this week. Well, in terms of content, we've not got too much. We've got a number of fixes once again, and we've got a lot of talk about the new exploration game mode, or the type of game mode that's going to be added that's going to allow you to head off in any direction from your starting asteroid cluster and bump in to other ships, other asteroids, other people's creations. And that's what they've asked for. Other people's creations are creations from the workshop to actually be built into the survival. Now, if we talk a little bit more about the exploration feature, you're probably wondering what they're looking for, and they've laid out a number of rules and ideas to get your ships within the game and make them meet the sort of core requirements. Now, the first one is sort of similarity between your ships, and maybe even make a small pack of ships so you've got a greater chance of getting them in the game. Now, they don't want just random ships, they want something that feels like they belong together, they're part of a faction, some sort of organization. You can see here I've got two alien ships, I've got a larger alien craft and my smaller alien craft that you've seen before. Now, these two go together quite well, and if you entered an area of the galaxy, maybe there's one of these ships and there's a number of these little ships hanging around, and maybe a base or something, you can actually get the feeling of some sort of organized force rather than just random ships being all over the place. Because just think how strange it would be if we've got a Henry there, and then we've got a purple ship there, and then we've got another purple ship. It just looks out of place. It doesn't feel like this faction and that faction belong in the same place. You'd wonder why they're actually there. Anyway, let's move on to the next rule. Now, the next feature that I want to talk about is purpose of construction, and this is something that they've heavily sort of enforced and give the idea of why is that there. Does it have a reason? Does it have some sort of purpose in construction apart from looking just nice? Say this building here, this is actually a printing workshop for ships. It could be a mining station, it could be a whole number of different ideas, as long as the player can come across it and go, oh, I see this purpose, this could help me, aid me on my survival. Now, something that they're not looking for is the use of rotors and pistons, just due to them constantly ever evolving them in these early stages of the game. So as you can see here, we've got a multi-tool ship with pistons and rotors on to help us actually use our welders and grinders. And the problem with this is if they change the size or change the configuration of these rotors and they place this in the game, they're simply going to break, and they're not going to be able to search through every single ship to find which is broken, and you won't want to come across some sort of broken creation as you're flying through the asteroids. Now let's move on to talk about the size. They've limited the sizes of the creations they're accepting just to actually stop the amount of lag or problems that they could have. Now, stations of course are going to be one of the biggest creations, so they're measuring everything in triangular size. So this station is 137,000 and the limit on stations is 500,000, so we're well within this limit of this small maintenance bay. Now let's fly over to Henry and we'll have a look at his limitation. Now, these small ships can be quite demanding if you build a very large small ship like you see. So press K, bring up the info tab, and triangles. So this is 29,000, well within the 80,000 small ship limit that we're faced with. Now this is what I'm a little bit worried with. This looks like kind of a standard large ship size, but maybe it's because I've sloped a lot of the armor. We'll hop in this and we'll actually have a look. K, bring up the info tab, and this is 484,000 triangles. Now that is not good, because the limit on large ships is 350,000, so this guy would have to be chopped down to make him compatible with the rules for the exploration feature. We don't want to lag up anyone's game, do we? Now, the next thing that is rather important and set out in one of the rules is their production sort of capabilities, a reasonable level of production on the ships that you're actually creating, as well as suitable wiring. So for instance, each one of these items here needs to be wired up and connected, as well as we don't want too many sort of assemblers as well as refineries, because it would just make it too easy on the player who comes across it. You've pretty much set them. You want them to come across one of these ships and find some things useful, but not everything. You also want items stored within your cargo containers. By the mind, not too many, but you want them to be able to search through the containers and actually find things that could help them. Maybe some iron ore, maybe some steel plate, or maybe some nickel or gold, just to help them that little bit further with the construction. Maybe the ships crash nearby and they see your ship on the distance and they think that's the only way they've got of surviving. Just think about it, it could be quite cool in a survival. But let's move on. Now, another point they made was about the weaponry. They said add a suitable amount of weaponry, so that means if it is just a cargo ship, don't go putting 50 cannons on. 4 is perfectly suitable, and try not to add too many weapons, even on the heavy sort of battle sort of base ships, because it's just going to cause lag, it's going to cause performance drops, especially the advantage or the unfair advantage that a little player is going to have as he drives past to investigate it, and your 50 Gatling cannons shred through his ship. It's just simply not going to get selected. They want something that's fair and fair to the player as he comes across it. Now, one of the final topics I want to cover on adding your ship to the exploration module is mods. Now, there is no mods allowed at all, and I'll just show you exactly why. Most players are not going to have their mods in the game, especially if they're very sort of specific. And now this is the ship with mods, and this was the original version I made. I just want to show you how it looks absolutely horrible. Like, I'll add that in. I've not got the compatible mods, and it's much better to take the time, work on the ship, and build it into something that looks rather decent with the blocks that are actually available to you. Now, the mods look very nice on my own server, but when someone spawns that in, they're going to end up with a useless ship, and you can see why they're not accepting any mods of any kind. So let's move on to the 2 new features that are actually added in this update, and they're quite small, but they can be quite useful. So if we hit Alt-H, we bring up this FPS and ping checker. Now, when you're in a multiplayer server, you'll have a line graph there showing descent, reliable, unreliable sort of variables within your multiplayer performance. You've got the ping displayed at the bottom there, currently 0 since I am the server, and you've got the FPS there. So this is available both dedicated and the undedicated server, so it's a really good way of monitoring server performance as well. If someone goes and plants a massive hidden minefield somewhere and detonates it, and you get a big drop in performance, you can always relog the save and work out exactly when it happened. Let's move on. So the last feature that I'm going to show you is actually when you're first starting up and building your world, you head to the advanced option, and say you are building something you don't want destroyed and you've got a few friends that are quite dangerous with rocket launchers playing on your server, then you could simply tick this block or untick this block depending on if you want destructible blocks. So I've ticked it now, so blocks are going to destroy normally. Now if I tick that off, blocks are not going to destroy, but the objects around blocks such as asteroids will still deform as usual. Quite a useful feature if you're testing out and building contraptions, but at the same time you probably want to have this enabled to see if they're going to be survival compatible, because if you build a piston or something arm like this, it's not going to show any damage, but then when you tick this box, it's going to just simply break apart when it enters someone's survival world. So that's something to take into consideration. Anyway, I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.